Ladies and gentlemen, I'm delighted to be here this evening with you. Please, my apologies, I've got one of these infections that's going around the place at the moment, so I'm croaking slightly, but I'm delighted to be with you and to share with you this very important evening. This time of the year, Christmas time, is a time of reflection, joy and celebration. So it's marvellous to welcome you here to the forecourts for this celebration as we launch these two publications published by Roundhall and by the Irish Council for Civil Liberties. And let me tell you, it's not often that people come to this building for a celebration. However, tonight that is exactly what we're doing. We are here to acknowledge the very hard work behind these publications and the fact that they're going to be most useful as we launch them into the public arena. Now, these publications are the product of very substantial efforts by many, but primarily, of course, of Dr. Fergus Ryan. And they're going to be most useful to legal practitioners and as a guide to non-lawyers. As a barrister who practiced for 20 years and as a judge who's been a judge for over 20 years, I'm well aware of the importance of legal publications and their benefit not only to judges and lawyers, but to the public in general, and welcome them, because when I started as a lawyer over 40 years ago, there were virtually no legal publications at all in Ireland. And it's a great credit to those who write them and to those who publish them that our collection of legal publications in Ireland is so good. So in that context, particular thanks to Roundhall. Family law is an area where we've seen very significant developments over the last 20 years. And Dr. Ryan was talking about aging himself by saying in 92. Well, I'm going to age myself even further because in 1960s, when I was a student in Trinity, we had no family law at all. None was taught. And in fact, it was only when I went to Columbia, New York, that I sat in on family law lectures there. So we really have come an extraordinary route in the last 40 years. In the family law courts now in Ireland, we've seen great significant advances in the last 18 months. We're developing a family law court, essentially in Dolphin House, with all the accessories around it, so that you not only have the court, but you have mediation, you have access to legal aid, and you have guidance from our court service staff. And this is an immensely important concept which I hope we'll be able to develop elsewhere around the country, where you don't just have a court, but you have all the appropriate mediation and other services around the court. Because, of course, as in many areas, the best result is a mediated result. We've also been investing resources because we're hearing a lot more extra childcare cases. The whole concept of access to guardianship of protecting children is growing more and more complex. And arising out of that, we're having more complex cases, longer cases, and more cases. And of course, that is there because of the disparate nature of our parents today, the array of significant adults that our children have. And of course, there should be no doubt that a child should have access to these significant adults, as it should also be protected where it's necessary, where there's a threat to its well-being. We've just come through our lively referendum on how we base our laws in relation to the children, how we interpret the role of the state. Very complex and paradoxical competing rights. And in light of the recent introduction of civil partnership and cohabitation rights, it really does take a very wise head to see things clearly, or a very clear head to see things wisely. The old certainties are challenged. New accommodations, understandings, rights, responsibilities, practicalities are taking hold. The balancing of competing rights and responsibilities is increasingly more complex. And these two publications are a great asset to considering and determining these issues. I know that the Glen and Council publication will be invaluable to those who advise and act as mentor or support to members of the gay and lesbian community who need to know what the law is in regard to their relationship. Every family group, regardless of its makeup, whether it be the nuclear family envisaged by the town planners of the 1970s, the constitutional family as described and written in our basic law, the separated family, the single-parent family, the large and extended Irish family, all experience similar, if not identical, moments of joy, enthusiasm, togetherness, hope, and provision of mutual need and support. Likewise, these families can at times be challenged by weaknesses, violence, medical or legal difficulties, poverty, or greater social challenges. Joys and challenges also arise for same-sex, gay, lesbian couples and their families, as also with every other family grouping in society. We now have a series of protections and responsibilities for gay and lesbian couples, not just in relation to the state, but in relation to each other. So these two publications, which I've enjoyed looking at, they really are excellent, and they will make access to these protections clearer and easier for those to whom they apply and for those who are interested in learning the law or applying the law. And I compliment Dr. Ryan very much and the Council and Glenn for the presentation and for the plain English. Now, we've been referred to the plain English of Know Your Rights, and I can't stress how important it is that it be in plain English, because it's a very complex area. We know from Dr. Ryan we have the legality there and we can go to it when we need it. But it's a very complex area, and to be able to pick up this Know Your Rights and in a very simple way to have these complex issues detailed in plain English, really I compliment those involved. A contract recognised by society and the state, which brings with it a major and long-term responsibility towards the person to whom it's shared. An understanding of this balance of rights, protections, advantages and responsibilities is important for all who enter civil partnership. A reading of the guide makes this clear. So I launched these publications this evening in the same spirit as I've launched and introduced a myriad of reports and books in many areas of law, especially in recent reviews of efforts regarding family law and courts, in the spirit that knowledge is important as it banishes ignorance and fear. And as the proverb said, knowledge is power, and with knowledge, we hope, as Lord Tennyson put it, wisdom lingers. As many of us put the finishing touches to great Christmas plans, or maybe are just starting, I myself am running very behind. Either way, there is no getting away from the fact that there are families we know, near or far away, families of every kind of makeup, who will not be having a happy or easy time these weeks of celebration. Poverty, emigration, social isolation, relationship difficulties, or simple confusion or breakup can cause extra stress at Christmas time. And in our family courts every day we see this. We see those who cannot cope with the stresses and those who are the victims of the stresses. So it's appropriate as we gather in all our families at this time that we're mindful of these great stresses and think of whatever little we might be able to do or be in a position to do to relieve such stressful situations. So as we gather in these very magnificent four courts, the headquarters of our courts, the epicentre of law in Ireland, it's important that we acknowledge the role law plays in bringing some relief to these situations, both in avoiding misunderstandings and in a redress for those caught in their web. And these new guides join many other fine publications in the arena of family law as maps setting out the route for understanding what the law has now stated, what we must do, what we should not do, what are the rights and the responsibilities. And so I congratulate the organisations, Glenn and the ICL, and especially Dr. Ryan for your wonderful book. Very valuable contribution to our body of legal knowledge, and I wish you the very best with your work. And I extend my hopes for a very happy Christmas to everyone and for a happy New Year for every type of family in Ireland.
Chief Justice, thank you very much. I think your focus on family and all our families at this time of the year is critical and apt, and it's where we all hope we spend in our various families and family forms the next couple of days, peacefully, I hope. Can I do one thing just before I wrap up and apologise to Mark Kelly for trying to make him part of Fergus Ryan's family, but apart from that, and I'd like to say a special thank you to the ever-gracious Jerry Kern from the Court Service, who's been invaluable in setting up today. So with that, could I wish you, Chief Justice, and the ICCL and Fergus and all of you a very, very happy Christmas from Glen, and to thank you hugely for your support during the year, and I look forward to working with you all again next year. Thank you very much, and please partake of the refreshments outside.